Welcome back to Prepping the Truth. Today's video, we're going to show you how to make homemade bread out of items that you can stock up in your pantry right now. That way, when there's none in the stores, you can make it fresh for yourself. If you've never actually made homemade bread, it is really simple as long as you have the right recipe. Let me show you the ingredients. Alright, here's the ingredients. First off, you want to have some bread flour. Then you're going to have your yeast. And the butter, this is optional. You can put the butter in your mixture if you want to. You don't have to have this, so if you can't have it fresh right now, you don't have to have this in the recipe. And I'm also going to use this to coat the pan so that it doesn't stick to the pan, which is something that you can also do with another oil or something that you can store up. You're going to need a towel or something to cover your bowl to let it rise. You're going to need 10 ounces of warm water, not hot. If it's too hot, it will kill your yeast and it will not rise. You're going to need salt. Then you're going to have regular flour. And then just a little bit of sugar. So let me go ahead and get this set up and I'll show you how to do it. Alright, I've got my warm water, which is 10 ounces. Make sure it's not hot, but not cold. The first thing that you want to add is 2 tablespoons of sugar. After this, we're going to add our yeast, which is 3 teaspoons. And this yeast right here, once you open it, keep it in the refrigerator until you're out of it. Give that a good mix. And then set it off to the side while you do the rest of your ingredients. Alright, I'm going to take my butter, and this is optional. You do not have to add this in, so if you're in a situation where you can't get fresh butter at a store, you do not have to have this. This is 4 tablespoons of butter. We're going to melt this and set this off to the side. Alright, now that we have the butter melted, we're going to set it over here. We're going to get all of our dry ingredients into a bowl. And for the flour, you need 3 1/4 cups of bread flour. There's 3 1/4. Alright, next we're going to add 2 teaspoons of just regular salt. Alright, go ahead and kind of mix that up just a little bit to get it all together. And all we're doing right now is just waiting on our yeast to start working so that we know that it is good. And once we know that, we will add it into this and mix it all together. Alright, now our yeast mixture has had time to set. And you're going to look for this froth that has come up on the top. It's all bubbly. You can smell it. That's going to tell you that you're using good yeast. So now that that has done that, I'm going to pour my melted butter into my flour and salt mixture. And I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to whisk this back up to make sure that any of it that's on the bottom is going to come out too. And I'm going to pour that in also. And make sure that you get all of that yeast out of there. And the next thing you want to do is just start mixing all of this in. And you want just a slightly moist ball once you have mixed it up. Now you could do this in a hand mixer, but if you're not careful, you will over mix it and it will make it kind of tough and your loaf won't turn out as good. And depending on the area that you're in, you will need to check the consistency of your dough to see if it's too dry or too wet, and you can just either add flour or add water as you need it. Make sure you get all the little bits and pieces mixed up. That way you don't have any lumps or anything like that in your dough. And as you can see, it's just a really nice, it's not sticking to the bowl much. It's all been mixed up really good. It's not too wet and it's not too dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this right here and we're going to cover it. This is where you need a towel or something to cover it with. We're going to cover it and let it sit in a warm place until this doubles in size. Usually in our house it takes 20 to 30 minutes and it doubles in size. Alright, we're back. It's been about 20 to 25 minutes. And while that was rising, I went ahead and took my butter and I have greased my pan with it. If you don't have butter, you can use oil. You can use Crisco. The main thing is just to get this pan where the loaf will come out without sticking to it. We're going to take this off. And we're going to take this flour, and this is just self-rising flour. You can do this on your counter or any way that you want to. And we're just going to take some of it and spread it out on this counter. Get some of it on your hands. It'll help it from sticking to your hands. Make sure your hands are clean. And then take the dough and just go ahead and work it out of the bowl. And it should pretty well come out clean. Alright, we're just going to knead this. And I usually do this for about 5 to 10 minutes. Just take it, roll it back over, press it in, and just keep doing that. Work it in. This is going to make a really nice, soft, airy loaf of bread. And if you've never had this bread or you've never tried it, it's a lot different than the regular loaves of bread that you get at the store. Especially fresh and warm out of the oven. Which if you try to cut this while it is still warm, it's not going to stay together. It's just going to try to collapse on you. But it tastes really good if you do. Sometimes it gets cut some here before it ever gets cooled down. But if you'll let it cool, and you can get you an electric bread knife, or you can just get you one of the regular bread knives, and I'll show you mine in just a little bit when I cut this after it's done and it's cooled down, and I'll let you see it. I think it was about $7 at Walmart. It's nothing fancy, just something to get it done. Because a regular knife will not cut your bread like you want it. It's just going to collapse it. So if you want it sliced, I recommend a bread knife. Alright, after you have kneaded this for 5 to 10 minutes, you're just going to have to look for the consistency of dough. When it seems like it's all kind of together and it pulls back when you press against it, that's when I say that it's done for us. And I'm just going to take it, and you can see the long pan that I have. And I just got these at Walmart. They was like $6. They're bread pans. Nothing fancy on them either. Making bread does not have to be expensive or require any kind of big tools. I just take it and start rolling it and tucking it under to the shape of the bread pan. And once you do that, it's going to look kind of like this. Just take it and put it into your bread pan. And we're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to see the size of it. We're going to take our towel that we just used over our bowl, and we're going to cover it back over again for another 20 minutes. Keep it in a warm place and let it rise. When it starts rising and it's about doubled in size and gets to the top of the pan and will start coming over, we're going to put it in the oven. When I get ready to do that, I'll tell you how long we're going to cook it and how many degrees we're going to cook it. Alright, y'all. It has been 20 minutes, and as you can see, the loaf has risen above the top of the pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the oven at 450 degrees for 10 minutes. And then after that 10 minutes, I'm going to cut it down to 395 degrees. And keep a check on it between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on your oven, how long it takes before it's done. And if you don't know, until you get used to doing this, you can take a butter knife right down the center of it. And if that butter knife comes out clean, your bread is done. Because if you're not careful, you'll either have burnt on the outside or not done in the middle. Now these loaves right here, making your own comes up to like 25 cents a loaf compared to $1 or more for what you're getting at the store. And if you wanted to, you could do this just like any other breads. You could bake a bunch of them at one time, let them cool down, and then freeze them. I also have a recipe for yeast rolls out of this same bread flour, and that can be cooked up and those can be frozen. So it is a whole lot cheaper to make your own homemade bread than it is to buy the store-bought bread. And this right here has no preservatives, nothing artificial added to it, just the ingredients that you've seen me add to it and put in it. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and when this is done, I will come back and let you see it. Alright, y'all, here is the finished bread. You can see it's a pretty good sized loaf. And it's still kind of warm, but I've got it out and I've got a cooling rack that I set it on so that it doesn't get soggy on the bottom where the heat's coming off of it. But we're going to take a slice of this and let you see the inside of it. And this is the bread knife that I was talking about. You want one that's got this right here on it so that it makes it easier to cut. And it's kind of cool and still kind of pretty warm. So it ain't cooled all the way down. But you can see that's the inside of it. It's got a really good crust. But this is a lot cheaper to make with less preservatives and less ingredients in it compared to the store-bought. Alright, y'all. Here is the inside of that. And that's the end crust. And you would not believe how good this smells when it's fresh and it's still hot. And it tastes really good. I wish y'all could get a bite of this, but I'm fixing to try. Well, maybe not, because I don't like to share it very good because it tastes that good. Oh yeah. That's good. And this is a really big loaf, but it don't last long here. So if you're new at this is a very easy recipe. You can't really mix it up as long as you just measure out your ingredients and mix it up. And when you're cooking it, watch the loaf as you're cooking it, so whatever your oven temperature is and how it cooks, that you don't burn it and that you get it cooked all the way through. I hope you like this video. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. I'd love to have you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.